everyone, my name is China Satterley and I will be doing dataset 1 for lab 4 part 1. So on this we have our dataset here listed out and the items bought. The next thing we're out is listing how many times each of those items are written out. So you can see that we have items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way down that are items bought in our list, and then we're finding the support for it, and we multiply our support minimum by the count that is in here. So if you look, this count is 6, but that's because we have 1 in here 3 times. Multiply that by 2 and we get our 6 count. Then over here we have our system set, which is the ordering of it containing to its number. So here we have on number 1 we have 1, 2, 5, but when we're taking it into number order, 2 is actually the highest with 7, and then we have 1, which is 6, and then we have 5, which is 2. So this list right here is going to be the order set in order of their numbers for their support. So going on to the second one, we have I2 as first again. On all of these, I2 are going to be first because I2 is the highest. And then I4 is next with that too. But that is listed all the way down, and it's in order of their numeral numbers. So from this data set, what we're going to do is we're going to create our list and our tree. So we first have our list here on the left, which is our number orders that we got from up here, but this is actually in descending order. So as I mentioned above up here, we have I2 first when before I1 was first, but this is because this is in numeral order. So from there, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating our null tree or our FP tree. And the way we're creating our FP tree is looking at our order here and then designing it out here, but these numbers that are next to it are going to be how many times we are going through it. That's why on I2 you see 7 times, because almost all of our orders here start with I2 except 2 of them. And we have a total of 9. So minus 2, you get 7. So let's start out with our first one. So for our I1, or let's start out with 2. We'll go with I1 here first. So with our I1, we start out with I2, then I1, then I5. So from there, we go to I2, which creates that 1 right there. And then we go to I1, which creates that 1. And then we go all the way over to I5 over here, which creates that 1. So this ends in 1 here. And then let's go on to our second one, which starts with I2 again. So that's going to create that 2 right there. And then we're going to go down to that I4, which goes all the way. I'm sorry, I1, I2. We started here this time. So we started with I2, not I1. I was pointing to the wrong one. So you start with that I1 here, which creates that 2 for I2. I'm so sorry. We started with I2, and then we're heading over to our I4 over here. So we're on 2 here, and then I4 creating that 1, because this is our first time going to I4. Going on to our I3, we started I2 again, so that makes it 3. And then we're heading over to our I3, so that's right here. And then going on to that I4, we start out with I2 again, making that 4. Then we head to our I1, making that 3. Then we head over to our I4 right here. Notice how our I4 here and our I4 here are 2 different connections, and that's because we have to hit I1 first on this one, and here we just go from I2 to I4. So whenever you're creating your tree, you're creating the pathways. So you're not following the same pathway each time. So you will have non-connecting centers. So from here, I literally just go from I2 to I4, bam. So then let's go on to our next one, which this is an interesting one, our T5. We started I1 on this one, so we have to create a brand new path from that null. Right now, all of our nulls have started from I2, but this one starts from I1. So we're going to go to I1 and then to I3, which is bam, down this way. And please take into consideration, all of these are out in ordered line. I know you can't see it because there's no line on the paper, but all of these are I2, all of these are I1, all of these are I3, all of these are I4, and then all of these are I5. Going on to our T6, we start at I2 again, which that's going to give us 5 right here. And then we go to our I3, shabam, right here. Now this is the second time we've done that. if you look up here, we have I2, I3, I2, I3. So this path ends in a 2, not a 1, because this is the second time we've done that. And then we're going to go on to our I7, or our T7, I'm sorry. We're going to start out with the I1 again. So we're going to sit here. That makes that 2 now. And then we're going to hit that I3, making that 2. Beforehand, these were both 1, but now they have converted to 2 because this is our second time doing that path. Like beforehand when I mentioned that I2 keeps going up and going up. So let's do our second to last one, T8. We have our I2 that we started right here. And then we're going to go on to our, that is not supposed to be I2. That is supposed to be, you go to your I2 and then you head to your I1. That's supposed to be I1, I'm so sorry. And then you head to your I3 again, right here, which is our second pathway going this way. And then you head to your I5. So we've made this pathway once before with I2, we've made this pathway once. This is our first time going this pathway, so that's why we end in 1 here. But remember, we've hit I3 before, because we've done I2 to I1 to I3. So this is our second time hitting that I3, okay? So just keep in that consideration what these numbers on the side mean. I don't want you to get confused. Then we have T9, and from there we go from I2, then to I1, then to I3. So that's that second path. So beforehand, our last pass was 1. This time makes it 2. So just in case that was confusing. So if you look at these two, they're the exact same paths, but the one before it, we went to I5, which is why this is now 1 here. So that's explaining our tree to our patterns here. But from there, we're going to be creating a table listing out our items, our conditionals, and our patterns. So first we have our items 5, 4, 3, 1, and 2. The reason why 2 is marked out here is because 2 goes every single time except 1. So those become null and null. They're on that null train. So let's start out with item 5. So item 5, our path, we have 2 paths to item 5. We start item 5 here, then we go up to item 1, then we go up to item 2. So you can see that here. You can see that item 1 and 2, because we took 2 to 1 to 5, and that ends in a 1, so that means our path ends in a 1 here. Now our second time that we're able to get a path to item 5 is going to go from item 2 to item 1 to item 3, then to item 5, but that still ends in a 1, so our end here is a 1. So we have 2 pathways right there, and then you can symbolize that over here by item 1 and item 2 having 2 pathways. Those are the conditional FP trees. So you have 2 ways to hitting that I5. And then on the end here for that I5, we can see that we have our association rules, where that if I2 and I1 and I5 are together, they're going to have a condition association of 2. And we were able to get that because, again, looking back over here, that's the path size we have. And then we have our I4. From there, we have our 2 ways of getting to I4. We have our I2, then to I1, and then to I4, which ends in a 1 here, so we end in a 1 there. And then we have our I2 straight to I4, which is right there. And then each of these conditions start with an I2, so we're going to have that I2 with 2 conditions, and then our association rule with that, no, our second rule is I2, I4 has 2 conditions. And then let's go on to our third one, I3. For I3, we have 3 different pathways. We start out with our I1. We can go from I1 to I3 right here, which is 1 pathway. And then we can go from, I1 to I3 right here, which is 1 pathway. Then we have our second pathway, which is I2 to I1, which is this pathway, I2 to I1 to I3, which made that a 2 right there. And then we have our last pathway, which is I2 to I3 right here. So those are our 3 pathways for that. We don't have a conditional FP tree for our I3 on this one, but we do have a rule, which if there's I2 and I1, we have a condition of 4. And then last but not finally, we have our I1, which here we have our path where if we start with that I2, right here, we hit I1 4 times. So we have it 1, 2, 3, 4 for each time. And you can see that up here on the table too. You can count that out. We go I2, I2, I2 to I1 once, I2 to I1 twice, I2 to I1 3 times, and then I2 to I1 4 times. So we have that conditional pathway there. So we have that 4 times. That then gets brought over to our conditional FP tree because we used I1 4 times. Again, just like I mentioned before, the reason why I2 doesn't have it is because they go all the way to 7. And our conditionals is written out already per here because they all start with I2. And then that one does not have association rule. So that is going to be our FP for data set 1. Thank you so much for listening.